Welcome back to Telltale Books, and happy birthday to the great science fiction author John Varley, who was born on August 9th in 1947. I'm recording this beforehand. I am posting it to YouTube to be available on August 9th. So this will officially celebrate John Varley's birthday. And this also kicks off an exploration, since he is one of my favorite science fiction authors of all time. This kicks off an exploration of everything I can get my hands on by John Varley in order of publication. And the very first story he published is called Picnic on Nearside. It's part of his Eight Worlds series, which isn't a chronological series. It's kind of a loose series, very similar to what older science fiction writers wrote, like Stanley Weinbaum and R.F. Starzl, where they place their stories on the different planets of the solar system in pretty much a loosely built common history. They don't go into a lot of details of history or whatever, but they build this kind of universe around man having gone into the solar system and populated the other worlds of the solar system. That was like I say, R.F. Starzl did a whole series like that. A lot of authors, Leigh Brackett did a whole series like that. A lot of authors have done that, and John Varley did it at a time when that sort of thing had kind of fallen away. He went back to that tradition and did a modern version of it with a lot of modern themes, very modern themes. Anyway, Picnic on Nearside is a novelette, and it was published in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction in August of 1974. I don't have that issue. It has a really nice Chesley Bonnet style cover. I read Picnic on Nearside in my very first John Varley book, The Barbie Murders. I bought this brand new way back in, I believe it was 1978. This first John Varley I picked up, and first that I read this whole book. I'm rereading it now. Picnic on Nearside is in it. And unfortunately, this is really the best edition you're going to get of this book. It hasn't been published in hardcover. I love the cover of it, though. I love it. It's kind of simple, but it's cool cover art. I really do like it. Anyway, what's Picnic on Nearside about? First, the story kind of gets into these details gradually, but I want to kind of set this up because I think it's important and relates to his whole future solar system, Eight Worlds series. You have a lot of the people from Earth living on the moon, on the far side of the moon. Reason being is they don't want to look up and see the Earth, because the Earth had been invaded and taken over, and they all had their butts kicked off the planet. So in this story, a bunch of them are living on the moon, but they're living on the far side of the moon. Well, there are bases on the near side of the moon. One of them is called Old Archimedes. And these two young people, they're friends, they decide to heist their mother's little rocket speeder and go to the near side to Old Archimedes and have a picnic. Therefore, Picnic on Nearside. Now, one of the interesting things about Varley is in this future history, this is in the future, even the future of our time today. The story was written in 1974, but the story takes place quite a ways after our day today. And biotechnology has gone a long way to where at the beginning of the story he talks about how the main character's mother takes off her feet and puts on these other types of feet because they serve a special purpose, so she has these interchangeable feet, probably cybernetic, I'm guessing. He doesn't really say that. Maybe they are more of a biotech device, but there's also a big deal made around the fact that in this future society, people swap their sexes on a regular basis, almost like changing their clothes. They go for a few years as one sex, they go and have an operation, they come back as another sex. Well, the main character's best friend comes back as a girl, and they're about 12. They're on the verge of becoming adults. But people live a long, long time. They go to old Archimedes and they run into an old man still living there, and he's like 250 years old or something like that. And so he's talking about the old days and telling him about the old days. And so instead of just staying there for an afternoon, they stay for a long time, and the kid's mother comes looking for him. The characterization in this story is excellent. The imagination of the story is excellent. The daring that, this is 1974, the daring that Varley took with playing with sex, playing with moralities, playing with how, these people live in a culture that basically doesn't have any of the morals that we hold dear. And Varley handles it in a way that it doesn't come across like a big deal, It's normal for these people to act that way, and that relates to something I've been thinking about lately. That a lot of people hold things as sacred cows politically, and they don't understand that in the future things are going to change, and what we think is sacred politically today are sacred ideals. They're not going to be held anymore. People are not going to follow that anymore. They're going to believe something different. I don't know what, but I do know it'll change, because that's the way societies work over time, especially with changes in technology. And that's what Varley is kind of getting across here, that these people have a different morality, and that this different morality is the product of this biotechnology that has entered into their lives and allowed them to be a lot more free, a lot more open with sex and with gender. And having been written in 1974, this was a very important point to make, because you just, especially in science fiction, you didn't do this sort of thing before that. In the late 60s, early 70s, a lot of the new wave writers were trying to break down those rules against speculating about future sexuality, and so they wrote a lot of stories like this, and Varley kind of took it to its limit and really pushed the thinking about how things might change in the future. And it makes this story very interesting. I wouldn't call it a top tale, but it was very good, very well written, very good story, a lot of imagination, some surprises in it, some enjoyable characters. Even though it's not quite top tale material, it's definitely a recommended story. I think you should read this. And it hasn't really been dated by time, even though it's coming up on 50 years old. It doesn't feel dated at all to me. It feels like it still holds up today. And everything that Varley puts into this story is what he put into all of his other, at least his 70s and early 80s work. That's what I'm most familiar with. The Barbie Murders, Persistence of Vision, Titan. Those are the works that I know the best by John Varley. And that's what I draw my perception of him from. And this story definitely fits in. It has his style, has his ideas. It's everything that I love about John Varley. So that's number one. It's kicking off the new series and celebrating his birthday. 1947 to 2024. What is that? He's in his 70s. He's getting up there. So his next story, which comes from, I'm already ready with it, the August 1974 issue of Vertex, is a story called Scoreboard. And I hope you'll join me for that and all the other videos that I shoot. Like us and subscribe to us and come back for more. We have a Patreon account where you can help support us, give us a little money each month, and we would put that money, probably towards a lot of different things, but our main goal is we want to be a publisher. And so help us out to that end. We also take whatever profits we get from our Etsy store, where we have some very nice merchandise, some quality used books. We try to find, we search resale stores and our own collections, and we try to find good quality books. Do all those things and come on back. Leave comments on this video. Come on back for the next video, and I will see you then.